And then obviously the commuter rail line would eventually transition back to the freight corridor as it gets beyond this immediate area. So that's kind of our track diagram for so much of the commuter rail line diagram you saw earlier. So as we start to apply that and look at how we get to the east, going back to this slide, the fact that we've got to come out of the station and then continue east. The place that ODOT had identified to do that was to go into this Union Pacific spur that comes off the BNSF main line right here. So what this is showing is coming out of that existing corridor. And by the way, these black lines are all the elevated structure. So we need to come out of that elevated structure here, make a right turn with a radius that meets their criteria, and get into this Union Pacific corridor. So we're seeing those two high-speed rail lines and commuter rail lines that are coming through that parking lot. That essentially obliterates sites 1 and 2, if you will, in terms of really using it for a functional facility, because the platforms can't be located here, or you'd have to back out to get into this corridor to go east. So what that told us is we need to push the platforms further south. We went ahead and ranked this, though, even though it seemed to have a fatal flaw. Going through all those criteria, and just to compare it later, this one ranked at a 55, ranked very low in terms of proximity to rail nodes, access issues. There are a lot of issues that cause this one essentially to rank fairly low on the chart, and we'll come back to that in a minute in terms of how it ranked compared to the others. This is Site C. We're going to jump south here a little bit. This is currently I-40, which will be dropped down to the boulevard. This is that rail corridor. This is the lumberyard site, the cotton gin mill site located here. This is a layout that starts to accommodate that functional program, if you will. And what we're starting to show here is that if we take the Amtrak platform that's up the track a little ways and move it down here, the orange is the Amtrak platform, that 1,200-foot long platform. This is the high-speed rail platform, a 900-foot long platform. In this case, we assumed, going back to that schedule, that we can overlay commuter rail. So commuter rail could stop these 350 feet. It can stop anywhere along this platform. When we provide the Amtrak line, the freight line, the high-speed rail line, and commuter rail line, both north and south, we wind up doubling the width of the elevated structure here. You can see this dashed line. That's the current width of the elevated structure. So first thing it told us is we've got to widen that elevated structure here to accommodate the rail transit needs at this location. The other components were the transit facility itself, the ticketing, the waiting, and so forth, at 3,400 square feet. That's shown here in purple. It's adjacent to the tracks. So you do your ticketing and so forth in here. You flow through under the tracks and then come up to the platforms just like you do with Amtrak now. This is showing about an 800-car parking garage. It can be immediately adjacent to that. Another key element of this site is the fact that when the future boulevard goes in, it's going to be depressed. So this entire intersection is going to be depressed. You're down about 12 feet below existing grade here. So you've got a retaining wall around this site. So one of our concerns was that more or less separates the facility from the rest of what we'll call the urban environment, if you will. So we looked at creating some type of a terrace plaza where you'd have an entrance at the lower level. You come back up to grade at this intersection, which is the extension of Oklahoma. We could have an entrance at this end, so you could come in at an upper level here, drop down inside the facility to a lower level, and go into the tracks. So functionally, everything fits on this site. When we start looking at the overall effects of how this facility is accessed, what kind of image it projects, whether it's visible, as you can see, it's essentially behind the railroad right-of-way. It has a fairly high cost because we have to expand that elevated structure. It's essentially hidden from downtown in terms of that pedestrian connectivity. It didn't rank high in terms of those general connectivity elements. So as we ranked this one, you can see it ranked low under walkable environment. It doesn't have streets or sidewalks that are connecting it to the rest of downtown. The boulevard's depressed. It's a little hard to get to. So it ranked at a 67, a little higher than the first site. Okay, so Site B, which is the combination of the Santa Fe building with the associated parking, the existing Amtrak platform located here. This is Reno going under the railroad right-of-way, and Sheridan on this end. And we'd also identified Site 5 if we needed to expand it onto the other side of the tracks, because we've always wanted to try to connect the east and the west here through this facility. And then Site 6 if we needed to expand it further. So we combined all those together. You can also see the Cox Convention Center directly across the street. One thing that ranked this site a little bit low before, or that brought the score down, was the fact that we had the loading docks and the garage entrance directly across the street from the front door of the Santa Fe terminal. We've since been working or trying to coordinate with the convention center location group and understand that this site is probably going to be redeveloped as something else at this point, which could bring the ranking of this site up. It has the opportunity to really expose the Santa Fe station if a street were to be added here, or that mega block might be broken up into a standard city block size. So as we start to test this site, you can see the Santa Fe station located here. This is Gaylord. When we overlay that 34,000 square foot transit hall, if you will, the passenger facility, it's the purple box here and the purple box here, and we're just trying to identify space right now. But it pretty much tells us we can get all the needs that are serving the passengers, the ticketing, the operation space, the waiting, some retail, restrooms, and so forth, passenger amenities, all working in and around and plugging into the Santa Fe building. So we have potential front door here, which could be a streetcar stop on Gaylord. We also created a plaza at each intersection, so there's a potential for a streetcar stop here and here. And what we're trying to do there, Jeff, as you know, is try to accommodate as many places as possible where we can plug the streetcar into this facility. It could also be on the other side of the guideway as well. This is showing the existing streetcar route, but we've had discussions of a secondary expansion that could bring it back around up Reno and back down Gaylord, so we could actually get the streetcar right at the front door of the Santa Fe station if this were to be the final site. Other components are, again, this is the Amtrak line, this is the commuter rail, high-speed rail line, and we'll show in a minute how you get in and out of here with the trains. There is currently an urban plaza, if you will, or hardscape space that provides some connectivity between Sheridan and Reno, and we see that as a primary pedestrian corridor, and accentuating that with a new entrance on the Bricktown side of the station. So the upper level along the canal, which is at the street level, could flow directly into an entrance that would be very similar to the Santa Fe entrance in terms of significance. So you've got a two-sided, if not even four-sided facility here, where you've got an entrance at 4 key points, which we felt like was very important in terms of that visibility and connectivity and really making it part of the environment. And then probably one of the most important things is that also allowed us to expand the tunnel that's already under the tracks to connect Bricktown through the Santa Fe station to downtown. So now I have another linkage besides just the streets from downtown to Bricktown, especially if you have the possibility of this street going through or the Cox Convention Center redeveloping, and we're not making a lot of assumptions about that right now. We really don't know where it's going, but we hope something different could happen. We're also showing the potential for future infill development that might happen with the influx of additional people here, potential grants for economic development because you have transit access. And there are many sites, obviously, in the Bricktown area that would be easily developed that are currently parking lots into vertical construction of some sort, mixed-use, retail, housing that could all start to infill there. The garage, then, we looked at 2 options. One was Site 5, placing it here, where you'd have the connection to the facility with the urban plaza, which could be covered. Another option would be putting it across the street. If you put it across the street on Site 6, we can then expand it. It could also become city parking for use for events, to provide parking for further development and infill development in Bricktown. And then this garage, we also felt like the footprint would work very well if we introduce intercity bus. If Greyhound and other intercity operators should become part of this facility, they would be operating on the first level of that garage with access off the boulevard via Oklahoma directly into that site. So we're not really bringing buses through Bricktown. We can kind of come in the back door with the intercity buses, if you will, but still connect them to the rail facilities. Doug, is there anything I missed here?
I think that's it.
This shows that kind of a cross-section through the facility. Gaylord's on the left, the Santa Fe building, extending the pedestrian underpass through to some kind of a covered, called a patio here, but some type of a key entry element that overlooks the canal in Bricktown. You might even have a bridge that connected through to the street level, to the upper level decks of the restaurants there. And then this is showing the section of Amtrak platform, Amtrak operating on this side, the BNSF freight, high speed, and commuter rail serving that off of a single platform.